right, welcome everyone to the meeting of the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors for October 19th, 2021. I'm going to look to my right, and Supervisor Jaron Brandon is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everybody please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so before we get started, we have some changes to the agenda today. So items 9 in proclamations, item 11, item 13, and then our 10 a.m. appointment are all being pulled off the agenda for separate reasons. All of those will come back to the board at another point, but I think staff in each of those items needs a little more time to work on them. So so if you're here for items 9, 11, 13, and the 10 a.m. appointment, those are pulled from the agenda for today. All right, so I will look to our board clerk to read our public participation procedures, and then we'll go ahead and move into our oral communications. Good morning.
Good morning. In order to protect the health and safety of our Tuolumne County citizens, this board meeting is open to the public with modifications. Face coverings are required for all attendees, regardless of vaccination status. During the board meeting, citizens physically present who wish to provide public comment will be invited to do so by the board chair. Citizens who are not present and wish to comment should be prepared to use our call-in line at 209-533-6581 to queue for verbal public comment. Options for public access audio and video live streaming. The public will not have access for public comments via these media options. They are available for audio and visual only. Access Tuolumne at www.accesstuolumne.org and click Watch Live, or on Comcast Cable 8. Zoom webinar via your computer at https://zoom.us/j/98737385155. or by calling in at 1-669-900-9128 with webinar ID 987-3738-5155. Please note, the Zoom webinar services tends to have a reduced broadcasting delay in comparison to the Access Tuolumne live stream and is suggested for the closest to real-time viewing and listening. Granicus live streaming through the county website is currently unavailable and pending a scheduled maintenance. Important public notice pursuant to AB 361, members of the Board of Supervisors can participate by teleconference. Accessibility requirements: if you need SWIFT special assistance during the board meeting, please call 209-533-6581.
Thank you very much. Our board values public participation and encourages community members to take this time to provide comment on matters of county interest. This section is for comment not related to items on the listed agenda. Public comment time limit of 3 minutes per speaker applies, and no action may be taken by the board on topics discussed. Your board members are listening carefully to these comments and appreciate you taking the time to make a personal investment in our community. At this time, I'll open oral communications. If there's anyone in the room that would like to come to the podium and speak, please do so. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. So yesterday, I got the Tuolumne County take-back info. Puts a lot of pressure on me. So I gave you all posters if you would like some other information, if you know someplace you can put it up, because I can't make it all over the county in 4 days. So it is going to be this Saturday. It's a national event happening all across the country this Saturday from 10 to 2, and it will be in the parking lot at the library, and they'll do the little drive-through with the pop-ups like they did the last time, which worked out really well. There are also, people need to update their information because there are other places to drop off drugs. So the sheriff's office has a bin in their lobby. The community services, whichever building they're located in at the moment, out at the junction also has a bin. Twain Harte Pharmacy has a bin. So does the Groveland Pharmacy. And Safeway also has a bin, but they keep it locked, so if you can't access it, I don't see what the point is. And now Save Mart in Timber Hills, so the upper Save Mart now has a bin, and theirs is not locked, so you can use it. So there are other places to donate. We need to have more discussion on how we drive and put people in danger in this county. And it was very disappointing to hear that we had a 5-vehicle accident with a fatality because someone got impatient and in a hurry and trying to pass on the right shoulder. And then I know you said you only wanted to hear from public health once a month after that 6-hour grueling beating you administered to them. But it's very disturbing to find that we now have another 3 deaths, and 2 were in their 30s. So that's just very sad. Although we're apparently 60% vaccinated of eligible residents. And I'm very disappointed to hear how much COVID there is in this building. So you aren't adhering to your own policies where people should be coming to work wearing a mask when they're in this building. And people that I care about have been sick, and I find that also very disturbing.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the room that would like to speak? Okay, I think Supervisor Heff, you had one item for the public. Good morning.
Good morning. I've got an announcement to make, and that is that Christmas is coming in November to Tuolumne County. The City of Sonora, County of Tuolumne, and the Stanislaus National Forest together invite you to the community reception for the U.S. Capitol Christmas tree. This will be happening on November 3rd from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Motherlode Fairgrounds. I do have flyers that kind of look like this in the back for anybody that's here to pick it up. This is the tree that will be outside of the U.S. Capitol, and it's going to wind its way from Six Rivers National Forest all the way to Washington, D.C. And we get to have a reception for it here. So there are different activities that you can participate in. The first one would be, if you want to, between 4 and 5, line the Washington Street and Stockton Street to welcome and wave the tree in. Now, this is an enormous tree. It's over 80 feet long. It's really something to behold. It will be a kind of a short little parade. The sheriff's posse will be escorting the tree in, followed by the city's newest fire engine with Santa, and fire engines from Tuolumne County and the Stanislaus National Forest. There will be a Native American blessing and live music performed by the Pinecone Performers. And let's see what else. Also addresses from the Six Rivers National Forest, the Sonora Mayor, County Board Chairman, and the Stanislaus Forest Supervisor. There'll be activities such as signing the 80-foot banner. There's going to be a banner on either side of the tree to sign. There'll be a walk through the forest, a 120-foot walkway with a guided forest experience, and all kids will receive United States Forest Service goodie bags. There'll be hot cocoa and hot spice cider served to participants, and there's a tree tracker URL that you can follow the tree as it goes to Washington, D.C. We suggest bundling up, wear winter clothing, and bring a flashlight. Social distancing protocols will be in place. This is an outdoor event. It is free, and it's very family friendly. You will be seeing all sorts of ads on social media, some in the newspaper, hopefully something on mymotherlode.com to really bring people out. And so we just ask that you let others know about this event, and it's something we can all rally around and celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That sounds exciting. Okay, if there's no one else from the room that would like to speak, we'll go ahead and allow folks that have called in to have an opportunity. Is there anyone who's called in that would like to speak? All right. I'm getting the head shake no. So we will go ahead and close oral communications. Thank you very much, everyone. And we will open up staff reports. Are there any staff reports at this time? Good morning.
Good morning. Dory Beats, Office of Emergency Services Coordinator. A few items just to update you on. We recently internally had a after-action review with respect to the Washington fire. It went very, very well. We met internally with the county, city, and some of our EOC staffing. We are going to expand that to a conversation with our operational area partners here within Tuolumne County tomorrow. And then we will have a final report due as required to Cal OES by mid-November. So I just wanted to update on that. We are also waiting still to hear about our request, and we will have a board item already set for November 2nd to hopefully have an update regarding that request on the Washington fire. Also, I wanted just to let, obviously, the public know, we were scheduled today to discuss and present outdoor audible alerts or sirens. That has been moved to November 2nd. Just wanted to update the public on that. And the third area is specific to drought. I was just emailed November 1st, there is going to be a water resilience workshop that we will participate in from the county, but we want the public and others to attend. I have some flyers, I'll leave them out. It will be November 1st, 2 to 5 p.m. At Evergreen Lodge in concert with Watershed Progressive, Water Solutions Network, and our office and others will be participating in it as well. But it is open to the public. It looks like a great opportunity to learn a little bit about water resilience. We will also on the November 9th Board of Supervisors have a drought proclamation and continued update with respect to what's happening with drought in Tuolumne County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other staff reports? All right, we'll close staff reports. Thank you very much. And move on to our consent calendar. I'll look to our clerk. Would you care to read our consent calendar for us this morning?
Love to. Okay, item number 1, approving the minutes of the October 12, 2021 meeting. Item number 2, approving an update to the Director of Behavioral Health Services class specification. Item number 3, consideration of approving the Homeless Services Social Worker 1, 2, 3 position allocation, pay range, and bargaining unit assignment. Item number 4, declaring various equipment as not required for public use and surplus, authorizing the deputy purchasing agent to dispose of the property through e-waste, scrap metal, online auction, or one-day sale at the Sheriff's Boat Patrol Yard located at 10915 North Airport Road, Columbia, California, at a date to be determined. Also to approve the donation of a 1997 high-tech custom pumper fire engine tag number 990724 from the County Fire to the Columbia College Fire Academy. Number 5, consideration of approving a sub-project sponsor agreement with Twain Harte Community Services District for the Twain Harte Storm Drain Rehabilitation Project and authorizing the county administrator to sign the agreement. Item number 6, approving unanticipated revenue of $136,000 from the California Office of Traffic Safety grant and a memorandum of understanding between the County of Tuolumne, Columbia Fire Protection District, Mewick, Sugar Pine Fire Protection District, and Twain Harte Community Services District for the purchase and distribution of rescue equipment and tools, and authorizing county administrator to sign all related documents. 4/5 vote required. Item number 7, accepting the resignation of Matt Nutting from the Tuolumne County Planning Commission and directing the clerk of the board to send a letter of appreciation and post a notice of vacancy. Item number 8, accepting the resignation of Denise Bowden from the Oak Grove Cemetery District and directing the clerk of the board to send a letter of appreciation and post a notice of vacancy.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ryan. Would any board member like to pull an item for further discussion? Comment, okay. Okay, so if no board member would like to pull an item, does any board member have any comments on the consent calendar?
Yes,
Start.
sure. I have a comment on number 7, resignation of Matt Netting from Tuolumne County Planning Commission. He was appointed to this planning commission for my district, the 3rd district. And like any of us who appoint people, it's kind of a thankless job. You don't get paid for it. You spend a lot of your time, a lot of your energy to review projects and to be a good steward of other people's ideas and property and whatnot. So I just personally want to thank Matt Netting. He's a friend of mine. I've been able to rely on him for expertise. He's an attorney, but he's also been involved with land transactions for several decades. So just a really sharp guy. I really appreciate him. I'm really bummed out. I keep trying to not let him leave, but he's so busy. He has other things to attend to. So thank you, Matt. And there will be another candidate coming before this board in the near future to replace him. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other comments on the consent?
Yep, I just wanted to briefly echo Supervisor Kirk's comment there on Planning Commissioner Nutting. I've had the opportunity to be able to work with him as well as Supervisor Kirk on the Planning Committee. He's always been very helpful, very engaged. He's definitely going to be missed, so pick a good one because he's definitely a really good one.
Okay, any other comments on consent? All right, is there any public comment?
Well, with all due respect, I'll correct Supervisor Kirk because the planning commission members do receive a stipend, so they are paid. Not a lot, but they do get paid. It's I think it's $50 a meeting. Unless something's
I
changed.
think
Yeah.
yeah. Didn't it used to be $100? And then we reduced it back in like 2011 or 2012 to 50.
So it's 50, correct?
Or is it 100?
I don't think he's received any money, but I'll ask.
Not a lot.
So they're clearly doing it for the money, Carol.
Clearly doing
No,
it.
I mean, it is a thankless job
Yeah.
and they don't receive a lot, but not a lot of committees receive stipends. And the planning commission is one of them. So just to point that out. And I just have some concerns about number 2. Because as I read it, you want to take all the licensing and certification requirements off the table. And I did some research. So no one in the surrounding counties is unlicensed or uncertified. And I wrote to there's a California Association of Behavioral Health Directors, and I wrote to them to ask them if they could give me some input on this, and I haven't heard back from them. So I know it's hard to find someone in charge of behavioral health, and I think Rebecca has too much on her plate, but that's nice of her to step up. I just have some concerns about what could end up, who could end up being appointed that may not be as qualified. I mean, we've already had some disasters over there. So I just have some concerns about that.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on consent calendar? Okay. All right. Now, there was a question there. Did anyone want to respond to that? Would you care to, so there was a question about the reasoning behind changing some of the job specifications, and from my understanding, reading the board packet, it's more of a restructuring the entire department and trying to make the candidates for those positions meet the need more so than trying to stick with the same classification. Is that correct? I don't know. You would probably explain it better than me.
Thank you for the question, Carol. I love that you're always looking at our memos. Keep us straight and narrow. We did remove the requirement to have a clinician be a behavioral health director. The job specifications are now directly in line with the health and safety code. We definitely believe that leadership skills is what we're looking for in behavioral health, and that doesn't always come with a credential or certification. So that gives us an opportunity to expand our scope of individuals that qualify for that position. And we hope that we're going to get many applicants. In the past, we were limited to 1 or 2 applicants, and then we had to choose the better of the 2 that were presented before us. So we're hoping that we will get many applicants and have an opportunity to secure some leadership, good leadership in behavioral health.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Carol.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments on consent? Anyone on the phones? All right, I will bring it back to the board if there's any more discussion, or I'll look for a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Brandon, second by Supervisor Kirk. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, so item 9 has been pulled. So we will move on to item 10.
Item number 10, consideration of recognizing unanticipated revenue from the Central Sierra Natural Resources Supply Organizational Study in an amount of $475,000 and increasing appropriations by the same amount. 4/5 vote required.
Let's see how quick our innovations director is with the PowerPoint here.
Clerk of the board. And additionally, there are some in the back for those. Yeah, and it is in your email too if you want to follow along on your computer. So, morning board. Cole Prisabella, Director of Innovation and Business Assistance. I come to you today with a pretty exciting opportunity for Tuolumne County to again lead a regional effort. But this regional effort has direct and large impacts for our county and those natural resources manufacturing companies, and essentially our forest resiliency. And so what we put together is the idea of biomass to business, meaning we have natural resources manufacturing companies in Tuolumne County that if you have a conversation with them, one of the main issues they have is supply, consistency, and rate. And this started with a conversation about 2 years ago with one of the natural resources manufacturers that are currently in Chinese camp. I was doing my job, I gave him a call, and I said, hey, I want you guys to expand. How do I help you? And essentially got laughed at, right? Because his biggest thing was, well, if you want us to plan, we need to know how to plan and have that long-term feedstock contract so that we can understand what the next 5, 10, 20 years will be for us. And so the current problem is that we efficiently don't deliver the biomass from the projects that we've been doing, like our hazard mitigation, our bark beetle projects, the cereal projects, any of the private property landowners. We essentially have a market failure where we chip it, we burn it, or we leave it in place, or we give it to waste management and they ship it off the hill. All of these, in essence, are market failures in terms of businesses being able to utilize that biomass for an end use. And so the solution is that we would leverage our regional partnerships. We would leverage all of those amazing things that we've been doing countywide here in County of Tuolumne, but have also been going on in the other 4 counties around us to really be able to take that wood from those projects, from those landowners, and deliver it in a clean, efficient way to businesses to create an end product. So really, when we talk about a Central Sierra supply organization, we're not talking about getting into Firewise communities and taking over. We're not talking about creating a new business model for logistics. We are just helping broker the great wood supply that we have to the businesses that can utilize it. And again, it wasn't created in a vacuum. Initially, the conversation was done at American Wood Shavings, but if you talk to Amador County businesses, Alpine, they all have the same issue. Without some sort of supply guarantees or some supply consistency or reliability, there really is no expansion, and there really is no help to take that biomass that's on our properties, on our public lands, and get it to an end use. And this is just, again, the key issues that were learned through a white paper at UC Santa Cruz called the Force Majeure. They have a paper called the Sierra Nevada Opportunities, essentially saying they called even more businesses than I across the West Coast. How do you come and use Sierra Nevada materials? And it was the same 6 issues. So supply, quality, transportation, workforce, product certification, and financing. And with our organization, we can directly solve 4 of those. Really, it's all about supply. We're trying to help with the quality that goes to those businesses. And really the biggest issue outside of those 2 things is the transportation. If you're 40 miles all the way out in the public lands, how do we efficiently get it to a business in a way that isn't overly expensive, overly reliant on diesel? And how do we kind of bring those into a closer efficiencies? And there's a group called the Joint Institute for Wood Innovations that talks about buffer wood. We're considering all of these things so that we can help them with the financing piece. And one of the reasons that's so important is we have a biomass utilization fund. That's that fund we got from the federal government to attract natural resources manufacturers to our town. And even with those low interest loans, without some sort of wood consistency, they're not getting the private financing they need on the other end. They're not going to be able to put up their own private capital to finish the investment. So this is really a large issue. The Natural Resources Supply Organization, our base feedstock, meaning the one that we're going to consistently rely on to deliver, is going to be from private land. So a large-scale community vegetation management. We'll obviously work with our public lands, so all the different master stewardship agreements, good neighbor authorities, the Cerro projects, and then also be able to aggregate the state assets, meaning Caltrans, PG&E. When they do their maintenance, we'll be able to deliver those to natural resources end users. We did go out for a first grant attempt, and that was through the Sierra Nevada Conservancy Community Resiliency Grant. We got letters of support from 3 of the 5 counties, but before we were able to get all letters of support, SNC kind of backed out and wanted to see investment from our region and or the state before they took the first leap. But on October 15th, so on Friday, we did this same presentation. I did this same presentation to the Central Sierra Economic Development District Board for the 3rd time in a different capacity, meaning the presentation has evolved. And we officially have a Central Sierra Economic Development District letter of support, and all 5 counties are going to bring it back to their boards for a letter of support resolution. So what's next? So really what we're talking about is the first portion of what's next, and then I'll kind of just give you a brief overview of the second, which is we're really going after this almost $500,000 grant from the Office of Planning and Research to do exactly what we're talking about, which is woody feedstock aggregation organizations, and how do we develop them. They have 5 that they can do. So in the $500 million approved budget back in April or May or so at the state, $5 million of it went to the Office of Planning and Research for 5 pilot projects, and we are one of them. This is kind of just a timeline of where we're at. So we've done most of our kind of pre-work. We've started the working backwards process with Amazon and Cal Poly. If you approve this resolution or this grant to be able to take it on, we'll be able to start our organizational study in November. That should be about a 3 to 4 month process. And then we're hoping by late summer that we can actually start to make some of these implementations. We can talk about that too. The organizational study, this is what we're really talking about. This is where the budget is. So the largest piece of the budget is the study. This would be about a $375,000 study. Feedstock is not the supply studies that have already been done. We have SNC studies, Sierra Nevada Conservancy, Joint Institute, Beck study. We know what the feedstock is. We know it's there, but now we want to correlate it to the demand. So a lot of these questions are about what do the businesses need officially on a piece of paper? What's their demand? How can we price feedstock contracts, meaning 5, 10-year? How do we effectively help? Legal analysis, this is the biggest piece, because if we're going to go down the path of a JPA organization, we want to make sure that they have the authority to do community vegetation management. We want to make sure they have the authority to offer long-term feedstock contracts. Financial, I don't want to bring you a potential organization that's just going to encumber more additional costs to us. So really, how do we utilize federal, state grants already like we have, like the Cerro projects? And then a community analysis. How does this fit in with Firewise communities? How do we encourage private property ownership incentives? How do we get their buy-in? So a lot of those it's a feasibility of this organization. There's a piece for convenings. So we'll be able to do some natural resources convenings to get everyone in the same room to make sure that we are on the same page. And then a Wood Innovation Campus. So we have 2 potential avenues with this $100,000 pocket of funds, which is for a match. So the Economic Development Administration, USDA, and now the California State Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, they all have pockets of money for campuses or an innovation hub or a place that is all about assisting small businesses to do research and subsidize wood supplies and get them started in natural resources manufacturing. And this would be great for our area. As just an example, cross-laminated timber, they're interested in red fir. There's a portion of red fir in our region that would allow them to do research on that as a cross-laminated timber. So there's a lot of good potential points to have a campus in our region. And then also a technical assistance partner. So obviously we'd bring in the Small Business Development Center from Valley Sierra, but we also have the opportunity to do larger, like Fortune 500 technical assistance, meaning they can help those businesses find international exports, international markets, so just a higher level of consulting.
Cole, quick question on this.
Yep.
On the Wood Innovation Campus, is this looking to convert existing facilities, or would this be trying to plan to actually build one from scratch with the funding?
I think that's it depends, but definitely always looking for how do we convert and make it easier so that we're not looking to build an entirely new facility.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't have an answer for that yet, as that's something that we would be working on. So this just a example of the farther into what I was just saying about the SBDCs and the iHubs and the research. Working backwards, so at the same time, this organization is an idea. There's also a piece that we would actually need a tool, and a tool meaning a map and an aggregation map that would allow us to say, this portion of this community in this high fire risk area, or this area that has a really dense pine area or pine trees, we need to be able to sell those contracts or understand at a high level where everything is. And so working backwards is an Amazon Web Services partnership with Cal Poly. We had our first session in September 15th. Our next one is coming up next Monday. And then the goal would be by Q2 of 2022, so April, May, they would actually have a product, that tool, to utilize and share with us. And we'd be also utilizing some of the work that UC Davis has done for a biomass estimation tool. Really, the idea is that you would use high-resolution satellite imagery to get a really high-level look at, this is a regional area watershed, but then at a parcel level, how do you understand underneath the canopy what species there are, what's the health of it, what are the merchantable timbers? So it's having actual annual data that's LiDAR-like for us to be able to make decisions at an organizational level. So this is essentially what we'll be doing on the October 25th convening. It's limited to about 40 people due to budget and space. And it's going to be the 5 counties represented by the economic development directors, and we'll have state, federal representation. The next convening will then add in supervisor level from all 5 counties, and then the idea of Firewise communities and all those other key stakeholders that would have interest. At this meeting, there will be industry representation. So American Wood Shavings will be there, the potential GSNR, Golden State Natural Resources, will be there, and some other out-of-county industry.
Cool. One other question. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Otherwise, I'm gonna just keep storing them up this whole time and throw them all at you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of them on the tool parcel level, one more behind this. Is this basically the same system we were talking about that you're pursuing with the LiDAR on private lands to try and make a economy of scale?
Correct.
Okay. That's
So this would be this is essentially the zoomed-in version of this. So it would allow us to understand what's the transportation cost, that's through UC Davis, their estimation tool, and really understand within a 50-mile region or circle from that business, what's the biomass availability? How do we understand that there's a pine amount of woody feedstock available for that business that wants pine alive, and then how do we efficiently move it to them through all of the different state, federal, and private properties and projects that are already currently going on.
excellent. Thank you.
So we're trying to bring digital technology to natural resources logistics, essentially. And for those that are interested to dive in deeper of how this idea came to be, these are some of the studies and papers that I found extremely helpful in developing this idea with the state and federal and other woody feedstock organizations that would help and had any say and could help me. So that is essentially where we're at. The big ask is to allow our CAO to accept those funds. At this point, the contract is at the state for us to sign probably in the next couple days. And I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Supervisor Campbell, can I just clarify something, Cole, so I can understand it? The contract, will that be coming back to this board? Because what you have here today for the Brown Act agenda is just the funding piece only. So there's no ability for the board
Correct.
to authorize the CAO to
Okay.
accept a grant or contract. That would have to come back later, which we can put on, the next meeting if we need to. But I just want to make sure we're
Right.
clear about what we're asking the board to do.
Okay.
So the contract is not part of this item, is that accurate?
It is not attached to
Okay.
the contract was supposed to be here.
Okay,
So they were supposed to deliver it yesterday.
okay. So I think then my recommendation to the board is all that the board has authority to do per the Brown Act, the language is just accept the funds, and then we can bring back the contract at a future meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
And on this, it says 4/5 vote, so that still applies because it's a budgetary action accepting the funds. Okay.
On that note, if we as a board decide to accept the funds, can we just give direction for the CAO to sign the contract so it doesn't have to come back?
No, because that's not agendized, so we can't take any
Oh, gotcha.
action that's not on the agenda.
Cool. How much does that put you out if it ends up being the first meeting in November or sometime?
It's okay.
Okay.
So I had a question too. In accepting these grant funds, does it obligate the county, to provide any other funding or any other commitments as part of this?
Nope, no match required. This is a $475,000 grant directly to us, the county of Tuolumne, on behalf of the 5 counties to do this work.
Okay. Also, I wasn't clear during your presentation, thank you. You had indicated something about coming back with a request for a letter of support as well. Is that still going to be part of this process then?
Yes, we'll come back, it'll probably be on the same day that there's a contract. We'll do a letter of support agendized item as well.
That would simplify things. Thank
Yep.
you.
All right. Other questions for Cole?
I'm ready to move.
Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and open up public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this? Okay, I don't see anyone in the room jumping up. Anyone on the phones? Okay, bring it back to the board. So you're ready to make a motion?
Yeah.
I had one thing I just wanted to ask. So this was, so I've heard this this is my 3rd round, I think, hearing about this because I also sit on the Central Sierra Economic Development District. And the thing that was that impressed me about it is that when we first talked about it, I was kind of thinking, well, sounds kind of complicated, and then you kind of won me over, and then you presented it to the Economic Development District, and that was their first reaction too. Was this sounds kind of complicated, and they were a little hesitant the first time we talked about it, and then you brought it back later, and I think people had more time to digest it and understand it. And basically, all this is saying is that we have a significant amount of biomass in Tuolumne County. It's this huge natural resource that we have. We're not talking about marketable lumber. This isn't like your great, 36 dBH cedar trees or things like this. This is material that doesn't really have a whole lot of intrinsic value, but it has value as biomass. And the big hindrance there is, in order to move it to a place that can utilize it, the costs are so high to where it doesn't make sense. And so what this is proposing is to come up with a way to bring the end users of biomass together with the raw natural resource. And it's as simple as that.
Correct.
And so, I'm excited about it. I think it's a great plan and a great idea.
And it's gotten a lot of attention from our state and federal partners on the replicatability of it and the ability to really actually solve some of the biomass buildup that is causing some of the high intensity fires. And it's something that each of us in County of Tuolumne property owners, we see it in our backyards every day, but we just do not have that connection to an end user that would allow us to have it as an asset. Right now, we call it a low to no value wood, and that's how we treat it, right? We cut it, we chip it, we burn it, we give it to waste management to ship it off the hill. But intrinsically, we're all essentially asset owners, which is there is biomass and there's an end user. So it's really taking away from the idea that it's a low to no value biomass to it's has value, and at least allow the property owners to not have to go out of pocket thousands of dollars to do some of that work. So.
Now, the one question I had was kind of, have we seen the grant documents on this yet?
So there's been documents seen. The contract is going to go to Maria in the next couple days when it shows up. So no.
And so the question I was getting to is kind of, would you benefit from us putting off action until we have a chance to see the grant documents and kind of understand what the county's responsibility would be in that? Or how would you?
Yeah, I think that it's fine. The
forward on it?
reason that it came on today was that it was supposed to be delivered yesterday so that we could get it approved today, so that by Monday, the 25th, we would have ability to utilize those funds for some of the workshops that are coming on. So we did have a time crunch, but I think we can figure out a way to make it work. And then we could bring it back as a consent calendar item. So I'm happy to defer that decision to your board.
What would you recommend
I would recommend before we take any budgetary action on this is to actually review the grant documents to ensure that we understand what the county's roles, responsibilities, risk, and liability are under the grant itself. And once we have that, we can review that with the board, have your board approve and recognize that revenue. And once that's in place, then we can review the contract as well to understand under the contract what it is, our role, responsibilities, and risk are on with that contract.
So Eric, are you suggesting we don't recognize this money today?
We haven't seen anything showing us where the revenue is coming from and what it means when we accept those funds.
Okay.
Okay, so then we would be more or less treating this as informational, making us and the public aware of this program. And then once we have the final documents, then we can go ahead and approve it, assuming that it's favorable to what the county's trying to do.
Correct.
Okay. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. Does that work for everyone else?
Yeah, we'll just bury it in our brains so that next time we
Yeah.
talk about it, we don't spend an hour. We'll know what we're doing and we'll look at the contract. We'll know what we're getting into and we'll move this thing forward because I know you're on a tight timeline
Yep.
to
Thank
get
you.
things going.
That's the main thing is is this putting us in, I mean, it is a time crunch, but
Supervisor Campbell, just to clarify, even if your board accepted this funding,
Yeah.
you can't take any action until you approve the grant. We can't take action on the grant because it's not before your board today. So from just practically, there's really not any action that we can take at this point in time. because we don't have the documents before us. They're
Okay.
not properly before your board.
All right, thank you for that. That's what I was trying to wrap my head around, so. Okay, so.
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
though, Cole. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, I guess I'll see if there's a motion, and if there's no motion, then we'll go ahead and move on and proceed with how you'd like to do it.
Do we
No
want
motion.
to table it?
So,
Yeah.
just table it. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, board.
Appreciate it. It's an exciting idea. So. Okay, so that was, so we did pull item 11. So we'll move on to item 12. Thank you very much, Cole.
Thank you.
Item number 12, consideration of adopting Resolution 102-21, appointing Health and Human Services Agency Director Rebecca Espino as the Acting Director of Behavioral Health, effective nunc pro tunc, October 16th, 2021, and authorizing County Administrator to sign the cover letter announcing the appointment.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Chairman Campbell, members of the board, Ms. Creel, Mr. Earhart. My name is Rebecca Espino, Health and Human Services Agency Director. On September 9th, the Behavioral Health Director, Michael Wilson, submitted his resignation to be effective October 15th, 2021. We thank Michael for his contribution to the Behavioral Health Department during his 3-year tenure, and we wish him well. Today, I come before your board requesting your consideration to be appointed the Acting Behavioral Health Director. As your board is aware, teamwork is the foundation to county work, and I will rely on support and expertise of a team that will include the Health and Human Services Agency Assistant Directors Steve Boyack and Wendy Hoffman-Brady, as well as the 2 Behavioral Health Deputy Directors, Tammy Mariscal and Brock Colby, and of course, the other management team that supports behavioral health. I do want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the entire behavioral health staff who on a daily basis remain laser focused in serving and supporting the most severely mentally ill and also the community members who are in need of substance use supports. So in closing, I respectfully recommend the board adopt the resolution adopting your Health and Human Services Agency Director as the Acting Director of Behavioral Health to be effective October 16th, 2021, and authorize the county administrator to sign the cover letter that will be sent to the Department of Healthcare Services announcing the appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Is there any public comment?
Well, once again, I think Rebecca has too much on her plate already, but I just want to go back a few years ago when Sherry Brennan appointed Carl Rodefer to the Behavioral Health Advisory Committee, and he was the supervisor overseeing that. And I forget who had left. Maybe it was Rita. And Steve Boyack became the covering person. And between those 2 people, there were a lot of changes made at behavioral health that I thought were really very positive for the community. And they brought people to the table that hadn't been engaged but should have been. And they deserve a lot of credit for that. So I hope this works.
Thank you. Other public comment? Okay, bring it back to the board.
I'd like to make a motion to move on staff recommendation, appointing Rebecca Espino as Health and Human Services for Acting Director of Behavioral Health.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Goldenberg, second by Supervisor Half. If there's no other discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and item 13 has been pulled. So we'll move on to item 14. Chief Murphy, good morning.
Item number 14, consideration of adopting Resolution 103-21, accepting the CAL FIRE Rural Fire Capacity Program, RFC grant, and recognizing unanticipated revenue in the amount of $19,928.55, and authorizing county administrator to sign all related documents. 4/5 vote required.
Good morning, Board. My name is Andrew Murphy. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief for County Fire, and I come before you today with a grant that we were approved for and are seeking approval from the Board to accept the unanticipated revenue and sign the attached resolution. So the Rural Fire Capacity Grant is a grant that's administered by CAL FIRE. It comes from the Cooperative Forestry Assistance Act of 1978. So that act gives money to the Forest Service, which they give down to the states for rural firefighting and assistance with different items. So the grant was approved for just under $40,000. It's a 50-50 grant. And we have the money set aside in our budget. It's an annual grant that we've been pretty fortunate to receive pretty consistently. With the grant funds, we're looking to get 2 automatic vehicle locators for the Type 1 staffed engines and 20 pairs of these new safety purpose personal protective equipment, safety pants, safety gear, basically. The AVL, there was a question on what is AVL, the automatic vehicle locators. They're basically mobile data computers that are in the fire engines, and they can communicate with the dispatch, and they also have a GPS unit. So other resources and dispatch can see where they are, so they allow the closest resource to be dispatched real time. It's just a great program. And with that, we ask for the board to recognize the $19,928.55 and to authorize the county administrator to sign all the documents.
All right, thank you very much, Supervisor Goldenberg.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Just appreciate you looking and going after grant funds like this. AVL, automated vehicle location, is so, there's so many possibilities. And I really look for this, hopefully, to be just a start, right? You know, getting our first couple engines equipped. I know the state has been doing this, you know, with CAL FIRE throughout the entire system. But closest resource is where we need to get. And this is a beginning step to ensure that that happens. I mean, I know the dispatch system, you know, accounts for a lot of it, but this really gives us capabilities that we didn't have. So I'm just appreciative, and hopefully we can keep looking for funds and get all of our equipment with AVL. So thanks.
All right. Questions from, or is there any public comment? Okay, I don't see anyone. No one on the phones. All right, bring it back to the board for more discussion or a motion.
I'll motion to approve of Resolution 10321.
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you. Have a motion by Supervisor Brandon, second by Supervisor Goldenberg. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, so want to take a break? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 10:06. Welcome back and good morning to this meeting of the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors for October 19th, 2021. So when we left, we were on item 15. And so I'll look to our board clerk to read that one for us.
Item number 15, consideration of waiving the first reading of an ordinance adding Chapter 5.02 to the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code, imposing a business license requirement, and repealing Chapter 5.08 for itinerant vendors and its associated fee in Chapter 3.40.
Good morning, Board. Liz Peterson with the County Administrator's Office. And my partner in crime is over there, not in crime, I guess. Chris Schmidt with the County Council's Office, who has, of course, been a support in this effort. So as you know, this has been quite a long haul that we have been discussing these business licenses. In January, of course, your board approved that we start to work on these. April, we came back to your board for some additional direction. And then, of course, last month, your board gave us some final direction on a few items of the ordinance for business licenses, essentially directing that you wanted to see all businesses in the county have licenses. So the ordinance that describes the procedures is attached to the staff packet on the board agenda. There's an attachment that shows the most recent staff memo that kind of details, or highlights rather, some of the details of the business license ordinance. So today, I am here asking your board consider waiving the first reading of the ordinance, adding Chapter 5.02 to the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code for business licenses. And then there is a piece about repealing Chapter 5.08 for itinerant vendors. And this is really just a procedural item. Because the business license program will apply to itinerant vendors, also known as those without a fixed place of business, the county's ordinance code already has a chapter, 5.08, and that chapter is currently administered by the sheriff's office to regulate itinerant vendors. So we are requesting that by adopting the ordinance, that your board also repeal that chapter with its associated fee, because essentially they're duplicative. It's not because we don't want the regulation of itinerant vendors to go away. It's because it's a duplicative ordinance at this point. So the sheriff will still provide the ability to criminally investigate itinerant vendors, which has historically been done to address issues with burglars posing as door-to-door solicitors, etc. So today, I am requesting that your Board of Supervisors waive the first reading of the ordinance adding Chapter 5.02 to the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code, imposing a business license requirement, and repealing Chapter 5.08 for itinerant vendors, along with its associated fee, which is found in Chapter 3.40.
I'd just
I'm
like
happy
to add.
to answer any questions. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I'd just like to add, we need to set the second reading also for November 2nd.
Yes, thank you. So I'm asking that your board set the second reading for November 2nd.
I'd like to ask what it means when we waive the first reading, because I've got some additions and corrections to the ordinance code as it's written right now. Can we waive the first reading and still do that, or how does that work?
So if they are substantial, or, well, really, for the most part, any changes to the ordinance would require us to restart the first and second reading process for the ordinance. So if you want to make those changes and the board approves them, then we will come back with a new first reading.
All right, well, I'd like to mention what those are right now. First of all, when we were talking about doing this, and one of the reasons why we were doing this was the pandemic and the inability to get in touch with businesses to help them. And I can foresee other possibilities of being able to tell them good things, like there's this grant available, or you might want to know about this. So towards that effort, I don't see anything in the current ordinance code as written that mentions getting an email address from them, a phone number, or this is kind of tangential, an NAIC code. And that would be, the NAIC code would be very important for economic development, for us to know as a board and as a county what kinds of businesses are, in our county. So those three things I would suggest need to be added, otherwise we're at a loss, again, as how to contact other than mail, snail mail, because the address, I think, is put on there, but I think these things are important as well. And I'd also, based upon numerous calls and emails that I have received, I would also like to add somewhere, and I will leave it up to you where to add if the board agrees, that this business license shall only be at our cost to administer said license. There's been a lot of fear registered out there that, oh, you're going to start with $32, but you're going to raise it. And I know other jurisdictions have very high-priced business fees, business license fees, and that's not the intention to make money here. But I want to put it into our ordinance code that it will never be the intention unless they change the ordinance code. So it'll be very obvious to the community that that's what's being proposed if it should happen in the future.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so the fee itself will be in chapter 3.40, and that amount your board will set at a future date very soon. And we legally are obligated to only charge up to our full cost recovery. We can never charge more than what it just costs us to administer the program. So as we've discussed, the county clerk's office will be administering the program, and she has determined that $32 will be the cost for her staff to administer the program. So I suppose maybe we could highlight something that says this is truly only cost recovery.
Yeah, I think that would be really advisable just because of the fear that's out there that it could be a mechanism for, raking in the bucks.
Yeah, so maybe on the form itself or something, we could put a little asterisk or something.
We could cite the state law under which we're required to keep it.
We could definitely
Something
clarify
to
that.
assuage the fear there.
And then on the adding the email address, I heard email address, phone number, and NAICS. Is that it?
NAIC.
CS code. I know what you're referring to. I just can never remember the letters.
The code.
Yeah. So that definitely will be on the form itself that folks fill out. What's listed in the ordinance is just, it's not like the exhaustive list. It's just the kind of bare bones, bare minimum. So I had already, or we as kind of a collective group had already worked with community development director and our business innovation and assistance director to determine what types of contact information or other information that would be helpful for them to see on a business license. And those 3 items in particular were already things that we have added to the form.
Okay. Well, it wasn't clear, and I didn't know that you didn't put that in the ordinance code. I would think that you'd put all the kinds of things that you're going to be asking on a form in the
That's
ordinance.
more of like a process implementation, whereas the ordinance is more of the kind of legal requirement for like I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
This sets the minimum bar of information that needs to be on the application. The county clerk would control what the form looks like. They would develop a form for that, and they could add information if it's desired that information shall be in the form, then it should be in the ordinance. Regarding the fee aspect, I'd hesitate to recommend that we put in the ordinance that we just take our cost, because the county has a lot of fees in the code, and some in a resolution. It is a very general rule across all fees, no matter what, that the county cannot collect more than its cost, and any amount that is collected more than cost is considered a tax without an election, and that's illegal. The county cannot do that. We do not do that. So it would be a little unusual to write that into an ordinance. It could be, perhaps in documents administering the program that we could highlight an asterisk that this is the county's cost. That would probably be a little more appropriate.
Okay, just somewhere where it's obvious, or as a reminder. And I did hear you say that those things should be, those 3 things that I'd mentioned first should be in the ordinance code if you want them on the form?
If the board is requiring them to be on the form as a minimum, then they should be written in.
Okay.
If the board is okay with having it being more flexible, then the county clerk could add them when they need them.
Well, I think this is important enough information That's why
Sure.
I mentioned it, so. Okay,
And
those,
just as a reminder, it absolutely is and was our intention
Okay.
to get that information. It's just not.
I think we're all learning this together, how this works. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I just kind of want to speak to that as well. You know, that's data entry, and we do. We want every, you know, piece of information that we can that, you know, would facilitate contacts. You know, email, phone, I think that's pretty much a standard logical thing. And the NAIC, you know, that allows us to look at other areas, particularly, you know, when there are, as was the case during, you know, COVID grants, that, you know, they specified, you know, certain areas that might be eligible for things. And, you know, by having that information, plus it gives us opportunities to reach out to people. But I wouldn't want to see our process held up because we don't have these items in the ordinance code itself. You know, I think that that's something that the form would cover. Thanks.
Yes.
Good morning, I'm Debbie Batista, I'm the county clerk. One of the things that I would caution you about is that if we make it as part of the ordinance code, and Chris could either correct me or not correct me, we do have people who do not have email addresses. So therefore, do I not accept their application? Where if we have it on the form, then we have a little bit more leeway. The other thing to remember is the world is changing. And if we want to change the form, do we want to keep coming back to the ordinance? Because in the future, we want to collect their DUNS number. In the future, we want to collect, you know, their employer ID number. Those are some really positive things, especially if we're talking about some professional services. I think we just want to have a little more ability to flow with the changing times. And I'd really hate to not be able to accept a business license, therefore violate the business because they don't have an email address. And I can think of one law firm, they don't have a email address. So Chris, would I be able to accept it or not?
No, the ordinance would just require it be asked. So there's going to be various information that may not apply to a
Okay.
business that could be, but not applicable. That should be fine, and you could follow up with businesses that leave blanks on their form. But the application is just content requirements, not a condition to conduct business in the county. It's so you can administer the license and have as much information as you can.
Even if the ordinance says shall? If they change the ordinance and they put in an email address as required, it's under the shall. So how do I accept it if they don't have one?
The section is that the form shall request this information. It's not, and the format shall contain that request. It's not that it has to actually be in existence. You just must request it, and that must be on the form.
If all I have to do is request, I'm okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a few. I wanted to echo what Supervisor Half was saying at the beginning. I feel the purpose section at the beginning would be a good place to put that. Again, we understand that, we've talked about it a lot. We can't charge more than this fee costs, but that might not be readily clear to the public. State law could change, who knows? I don't see the harm in putting it in there in some way. I think, as suggested by council, in line with state law regarding, you know, this section, the business license fee cannot be more than the cost of providing service. That just is better. It's more informative, even if it may be legally unnecessary. I think it does have a public benefit. I had language that I also wanted to add as to what the purpose of this is, and specifically being for communication benefits. I think it's information sharing is the greatest benefit. Information for economic planning, other planning, but also communication. And the language be adding to the end of the purpose section for the benefit of communicating policy changes, public service outreach, grant or program opportunities. And Liz, I can email this to you if you want to. I got it typed out. grant or program opportunities, soliciting feedback, and otherwise providing value to local businesses. In line with state law, the business license fee cannot be more than the cost of providing the service. I think to me that language would address two of those concerns and definitely indicate what we're wanting this to be.
I'd be supportive of that, and I appreciate the work that you put into it.
I'll send that language if we wanted to do. I had a couple other comments as well. One, we had discussed just a little bit about having with representative organizations, the Chamber of Commerce. I know we have the Farm Bureau here as well today. Organizations such as that, filing on behalf of members that may be simple, just to potentially be another reason to join those organizations, be able to do it in a expeditious fashion, and allowing them to access the contact information for basically being able to recruit new members. So that's been, I think, a common concern with chambers of commerce is recruiting new members and sharing what's happening is rather difficult. The same reason we don't have access to these email lists that are easy to send out grant resources, like the one for $125,000 for those in the timber industry, right? Really great one. They suffer the same issues that we do. I didn't see any language that mentioned we would share this information with those representative organizations.
So there is a section in, let's see, 5.02.1 or 100 about some confidentiality stuff. So there is some confidentiality requirements that personal information collected for the purpose of issuing a business license shall be confidential, shall not be available to the public for inspection, and shall not be disclosed except as required to administer the licensure program or comply with a judicial warrant, subpoena, or court order. The personal information means the applicant's resident address, California driver's license information, individual taxpayer's ID number, or social security number, and then income and tax information. So the rest of that information is public record
Yeah.
that folks could access just like any other.
Is there a way to have under Section C, for example, for personal information and following, or having, I guess, a Section D under there that says this this information shall be available or provided on an annual basis to business representative organizations. If there's a better phrasing for that, that would be fine. But it's something we discussed with the my local Chamber of Commerce's, as well as one of the meetings with the Tuolumne County Chamber.
I mean, I suppose we definitely can. Yeah, that's more of like a process thing. So yeah,
I think a lot of people might not know that would be a public record they could access. And certainly it's maybe a tool there for if in case it breaks down that they're not familiar with that, we're able to provide that. And here's the new businesses. Be sure to reach out to them, buy them lunch, bring them into the chamber. And then I wanted to recommend, as far as business, we require, to my knowledge, right, there will be an address that is required on that, potentially a mailing address, right? We're not expecting the Postal Service to go out of business and we stop mailing things. Email addresses are fairly ubiquitous. It takes about 2 minutes to make an email address, if that. For us requiring a business to have an email address, I don't think that's a big requirement. I think that law office, if they can't figure that out, then they're probably it's probably going to be a real trouble for a lot of reasons. The whole point of this is communication, so I think we should set a high bar. Now, if somebody truly wants to opt out, instead of just creating a throwaway email that they don't really check, maybe we could provide a provision for that. What I don't want is something that says voluntary next to it, and so a lot of people who maybe don't really care either way that much, but they just want a faster form to fill out, don't do that, and therefore aren't getting a lot of the benefit from this, because that's the cheapest and most efficient way for us to get out information. We don't have to pay post or to send it by mail, and we don't have to have somebody sit there and actually call everybody.
Yeah.
So I would recommend making it required.
So if we require an email address, then there must be some type of enforcement that if people don't meet the requirements of the ordinance. So perhaps that requirement would be, I mean, it sounds like what I'm hearing is they wouldn't get a license if they don't provide an email address. Excuse me.
Yeah, and
So
I think they
that's
could
what we
just
would have
make
to
one
add to the
like
ordinance.
right then.
Mhm.
Again, it takes about 1 minute. It would be very small.
Supervisor Brandon, I'm wondering, requiring doesn't sound like the direction to go, but I'm wondering your suggestion about making a business available to other like organizations like a chamber or a farm bureau or whatever. There is a possibility, I would think, of adding a check the box at the bottom of the form that says, yes, I'd like you to share my information with associated groups in this county. So that the person who's filling that out for the business can decide whether they want it shared or not.
That's a good idea. I would only recommend it's an opt-out, that if they don't want us to share that, just because of how people normally fill out forms.
You know, opt-out tends to blow by people, quite honestly. I'd be in preference of what Supervisor Half just said, that they have a specific box. If they want to share it, they check it.
There's just one other thing I'd like to add is ultimately this ordinance needs to be enforced. Some mechanism so businesses just don't refuse to comply. And we do have a penalty that is imposed, but for businesses that may just completely ignore that, there's the ultimate enforcement that this license could be revoked or suspended, and there are appeal rights. However, I would just stress that if there is a requirement for things like an email address, and that could suspend or cause a denial of a license and the right to conduct that activity ultimately, if this ordinance is to be ultimately enforceable. So I just need the board to know the consequence of requiring applicants to list their certain information.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of chime in as speaking in favor of maybe not getting so much into the weeds in the ordinance itself and allowing some of those finer points to be worked out through staff action and policy. Because, you know, we may discover things from rolling this business license out that we haven't even thought of right now. And so I'd be more in favor of keeping things a bit flexible so that if there are changes that need to be made, we don't need to revisit the entire ordinance, that staff will have the freedom to be able to make those changes on the fly and better serve the businesses that are going to be applying for this. And I agree with citing the actual rule that requires that we an ordinance like this is only meant to cover the cost of administration. I don't see that there's any legal issue there because we're just citing what already is in place, correct? I mean,
that is true. In
Okay.
the purpose section of the ordinance, we could put in a restatement.
and we actually do cite something like that. I looked it up and then I moved off of it. It was the business California Civil Code. Anyway, so I agree with that, and then I agree that I don't see any harm with saying that, you know, including email, physical address, and some of these other things, the NAIC code as possible data points. I don't see any issue with including that in the ordinance. I would leave it open that we could collect. The intent is to collect data such as these types of things, and then I think the purpose statement that Supervisor Brandon mentioned, I think was good. Yeah, I think the only thing that I kind of am not so on board with is requiring the email address. I think I'd rather leave it a little more open so that the businesses can kind of decide for themselves the best way that they would want to be contacted. that data should be collected.
I would just add a precautionary on the NAIC. Having gone through that process myself and registering a business, sometimes those codes are not very easily found, and trying to discern just which one applies to your business can be very difficult. And I went through the federal process on that. So if we're looking at requiring that code, we may need to somehow offer some assistance in helping that determination, because it's not an easy thing, because some of them can apply in different areas. So I would exercise some caution, in that area.
I'll chime in real quick. You guys know where I stand on this. I'm not for mandating a business license. I think it should be optional. For some of the reasons why we're discussing today, we're talking about requiring emails. Who knows what we're going to be requiring in 2-3 years, or when another board comes on board. I think it should be optional. But I will weigh in on the conversation. I think brevity is best, and I think if the purpose of this is to understand what businesses are in the community and to be able to communicate with them, I think those who don't have emails is going to be a very minute handful of people, and I think they should have the option to weigh in if they want to put an email address or not. I think overall I get our job is to come up with an ordinance. I think we're getting a little bit too much into the weeds, so I would kind of agree with everything that Supervisor Campbell said, and one of the statements that Brendan said, Supervisor Brendan, about the purpose, but that will be my 2 cents. However, again, as I've been since January, I can't support a mandate for a business license. I think it should be optional. Thanks.
All right, so let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this? Come on down. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Katie Diemel, and I'm here with the Tuolumne County Farm Bureau and as business owner here in Tuolumne County. Thanks for having me today. The business licenses have never been required in Tuolumne County, as you know. This new ordinance goes to the extreme, requires a lot of information. And as a business owner, and speaking on behalf of many business owners in Tuolumne County, we fail to see the benefits that would come of this ordinance. Frankly, businesses are struggling with supply chain, struggling with employees, getting employees to come to maintain our employment, struggling with regulatory issues and to stay in compliance. And compliance completely falls on business owners and those employees. It adds time and workload. We're struggling to be profitable and to stay open in these unprecedented times. It's harder and harder to grow businesses in California and here in Tuolumne County. We urge you to work towards a more sustainable and profitable business climate here in Tuolumne County. And we urge you to help ease that regulatory burden by voting against and not furthering this county ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Good morning, Nathan Rosasco. I'm the president of the Tuolumne County Farm Bureau at this time. And I'm a business owner, and I don't even know where to begin on this stuff. I think first of all, one of the things that concerns me from an agricultural standpoint, I know our organization's against this. And I find it interesting that Brandon puts the spin on it that we're gonna somehow benefit from our membership. Trust me, we don't need the county to help us incur members. We do that pretty much on our own. But one of the things that really concerns me is the enforcement. When I hear you guys say that, the fee's only gonna cost the administration, be the administrative costs, does anybody here tell me how many businesses are in Tuolumne County that you're gonna be collecting on? I doubt if anybody has a clue. And when we talk about that from an agricultural standpoint, what is a guy with 5 cows in his backyard? Is he a business? They have 20 trees with a vineyard. Maybe they go to the farmer's market. Are they considered a business? I mean, this thing is, you guys, your language is so broad and so encompassing. You haven't thought this thing through very far. I mean, from an agricultural standpoint, I don't know. I'd have to go back and do some research. I don't know if there's a lot of counties that actually require agricultural businesses to have a business license. But yet in here, first thing you say is in your language, you say agricultural. That's it, agriculture. No definition of what an agricultural business is. And you do that through this whole document, just a business. There's a lot of people who have part-time businesses, do things on the side. Are they all included in this? When the fee structure, I noticed the fee structure was one sentence. It doesn't say when we come back to the board, do they raise it? Does the administrator decide, well, this is what we gotta have to do this? Because I can bet anybody on this board that within 5 years, this thing won't be $32. More like 132. I have a lot of things that I have to do for my business. I mean, trust me, you might think I'm in agriculture and I'm not regulated. I got the Air Resources Board, I got the Water Board, I got the the Water Board runs over me. I have the Ag Commissioner's Office that has pesticide controls. I have tons of stuff that I already have to regulate. Okay? One of the things that I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, and I said the requirement on IDs. You want a driver's license, a tax ID, a social security, and tax information. Well, tell me what your tax information. You want my taxes to bring my taxes in? To show you how much money I'm making? And when you say that's secured, I guarantee you, anybody, this guy runs Conifer, and he told me, you guys don't have enough security in your thing to have all that information sitting there that can be hacked.
Thank you.
And spread out all over whoever gets it.
Thank you very much.
That's my time.
That's your time. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Sasha Farkas. I'm a business owner in Tuolumne County. I have a couple different businesses. I'm opposed to this. I'm kind of shocked it's moved as far as it has. I've been doing a lot of work out of town this last 4 months. I got a call from a friend. Hey, did you hear the county's bringing this business license back? I didn't even know you guys had passed it. So the money you guys spent on community outreach and transparency, it's a waste because it's not working. Most people I know in a business, they're at work today. The only reason why I'm here, the machine I run broke down. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to be here either. No one's got time to sit on a Zoom call, sit on a phone call, waiting. We don't need more regulations. I have 2 contractors' license, a timber operator's license, motor carrier permit, CA number, USDOT number. Our drivers have to be in a driver consortium, drug pool program, driver pool notices. It just goes on and on what businesses are dealing with. And then I hear, oh, the fee's only gonna be. What about our time to do this paperwork? There's costs to that. And I don't think government realizes that. There are costs to doing this paperwork. So a fee or fee exempt, it doesn't matter. You're taking hours away from us being productive out in the field. So for my couple LLCs and my business where I'm logging and doing land clearing, that's 3 fees, 3 sets of paperwork. I could be productive, I could be making money. It's not gonna allow me to do that. Now currently I spend about $9,000 a year on personal property taxes that go to this county. On top of my employees, their wages, the sales tax that we spend in this county. Every time I buy a new piece of equipment, 2.25% is what it is for a new piece of equipment. In the last 4 years, I bought 2 $500,000 machines. What has the county made off that? Then I get taxed on that equipment every year. Now, I found out from our assessor, if my machines are not in this county January 1st, the taxes go to the county where the machines are sitting. My machines regularly are working in other counties, but I continue to make sure Tuolumne County gets that tax money. I don't have to do that. So the revenue losses from some of these businesses could be pretty great if we get frustrated and want to move to a different county, work in a different county. You guys need to pull your head out, figure out the businesses don't need more regulations. We're done. That's why people are fleeing California. Don't turn this into another Bay Area.
Thank you.
Good morning again, Board. Andrew Murphy, Assistant Fire Chief with County Fire. I just wanted to remind the community and the board, there is a public safety angle on this business license topic as well. And this is something, of course, we've discussed for quite a while with the board. But I just want to remind it's one of the things that this will allow us to do, allow the county to do, is to gather information on the businesses that are required to be inspected. And so what that does, because there are businesses in the community that we're not aware of course, as the gentleman mentioned, but it allows us to check for hazards, sprinkler systems, chemicals, flammable liquids, make sure the exits are open and secure, and that they have the defensible space. There's just for fire, it's very important that we gather the information on what businesses are in the community and what hazards they may pose to keep the public, the employees, and the business owners safe. And voluntary compliance is really not, I want to say insufficient, but it just doesn't work. And so to have an ordinance, we feel is important. Thank you.
Andy, I have some questions for you on that. Now, there are certain types of businesses that have mandates. That's not going to change, that those will be inspected. But you're not suggesting that all businesses will be inspected, just those that are mandated, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And for the public's benefit, can you mention what types of businesses those are?
So those would be like hotels, motels, hospitals, jails, where there's basically congregate facilities. Also, there are times, or there are instances where there perhaps is a above-ground storage tank, those sorts of construction and operational permits as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. My name's Stephen Treat, small business owner here in the county. Our business has been in operation for over half century here in the county. And we're a small manufacturing facility that we service large industrial machine companies, including Gallo, Owens Corning, nationally, internationally, and everywhere in between. With the industry that we're in, we're already regulated through federal and states up the wazoo. And I have no problem with something like this going through if it's voluntary. But as other people have already mentioned, this is more paperwork and more time that we take away from what we're currently needing to do to create the revenue to pay our employees and bring money into this county. The downfall is, I'm already working 60 to 80 hours a week personally myself, on top of what all my guys are doing, and we've been trying to find employees for the last 9 to 10 months, and nobody wants to work. So by adding another regulation that we don't have a control over, it's just going to be pushing more people to that edge to either A, leave the county, or even B, leave the state altogether. I'm a transplant. I've been up here now about 15, almost 20 years, and this is my home. I don't want to leave. But my wife and I were seriously talking about pulling everything out and leaving. And I just don't want to see this board adding more and more straws to that camel's back that'll eventually break it. And what will be left of the county if you start pushing more and more people here that are here to support that county, to support the community, the personnel that are here that makes this community the amazing community that it is. A lot of us have other experiences with other organizations here within the county and can contribute to everybody here pulling together and being a strong, it's not like other communities within the state. And I just don't want to see something that's very polarizing like this, that it could potentially help. But at the same time, the way that it can be implemented, I see that it will put a very large negative taste in people's mouth and just hinder a lot of the smaller businesses that might not need those support, you'll be losing a lot of revenue, in my opinion, in a lot of other areas that you're not even thinking about. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone on the phones that would like to speak? Okay, bring it back to the board for more discussion, or if there's a motion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we've had this up as an item a few different times. I know we've discussed at length, I think, some of the reasoning as to why do this again. If it's not revenue generating, what is the county looking to get out of this? Can we present, maybe reiterate some of those things we've talked about in some of the previous meetings, some of the steps that we've gotten to? This has been at least a year-long process so far, or 10-month-long process since pretty much January. Liz, could you, expand on that a little?
Yeah, sure. We actually started talking about this last year in 2020, but with this board here, we kind of did a larger presentation in January where we just talked about the concept of business licenses. At the time, the business license was tied to a fire inspection because it really was looking at health and safety requirements. Your board made the decision to separate those two and really wanted the business license to stand on its own and to not have any other requirements associated with it except for the business license. The business license has always intended, knowing that for the past 10 months we've been in the thick of COVID, and that's an easy one, sort of low-hanging fruit to grasp when we look at why business licenses might be beneficial, because there have been, unprecedented amount of funding that have been available. Cole, of course, has done an excellent job reaching out to the businesses that he has access to, but we just don't have all of the information on all of businesses who maybe could have benefited. Cole also is a resource to assist businesses with application processes. And again, just not being aware of those businesses, we haven't been able to provide the service or the communication or education that we would like to. So January, we had a large conversation about business licenses. April, we came back and kind of talked about a draft framework for what an ordinance might look like. Again, your board was very clear that it was minimal regulation, that it truly was just about education about what services might be available, support to businesses. And then, some of those health and safety components, again, to Chief Murphy's point, the state mandates inspections for certain types of businesses. We're not aware of all of those types of businesses that are out there, the state mandated ones. And so this business license would help us with that. Your board's top priority is fire safety. And so having the information about those businesses that the state already mandates fire inspections would help increase safety related to fire here in the community. Once we move out of COVID, though, there is still always opportunity for maybe it's seeking feedback on some other project. Right now we are working through our development impact fees, which impacts other types of businesses in the kind of the construction development group. And so maybe there's a way, not maybe, there is, through this business license process, having access to kind of these sectors of business would allow us to target those specific sectors with maybe public outreach opportunities or seeking their feedback or their input on specific policies or programs that your board or staff or just the county as a whole might be looking into or might be wanting input from. I do see that these business licenses as a whole will be an opportunity to streamline and improve communication in ways that the county has never had before because they have not had business licenses. So I hope that is helpful.
Yeah, it really does. Does help. And I kind of wanted to reiterate just some of my thought process the last 10 months when this has come to us. Effectively, it came paired with that. I think the board direction was to try and keep this simple. Again, why are we doing this if we're not trying to generate revenue from it? It's recommended by our economic development director, and we want to be able to create jobs, more opportunity here. That timber grant that I mentioned, I tried to share it on Facebook. They flagged it as a spam on there. That was a $125,000 grant that anybody in any timber-related industry, we're talking truckers, processing, loggers, and anybody related to it, could have applied for as a COVID recovery grant, not a loan. We're not always great at getting this information out. It's very hard to develop that email list, that contact list. And this is us trying to get better at that communication building. And for me, I get a lot of people asking, back to being COVID, the PPP loans. the EIDL emergency, loans and grants, looking and not hearing about Valley SBDC and all these startup opportunities for these new businesses that don't know, there are these massive small business administration resources to help start, that they'll help with a business plan, they'll help with an expert hired to work on your marketing or do research like the Independent Wine Co. downtown on the history of the building to be able to share that, and design standards. And we have so many resources as a community. I think as some of the speakers mentioned, we want to be able to help share that. I wouldn't do this if I didn't think that it would have not just a greater net positive for the community, but a much higher magnitude higher of a positive impact than the cost. And if in the future a future board decides to try and add something else onto this, it will have to be in the ordinance code. This is, I actually think, the most or least restrictive version we could really start with. Maybe it doesn't apply to everybody. I think it was trying to be simple with that, keep it consistent. But it really doesn't have any additional mandates or requirements. If future boards want to do that, then the public will have that opportunity to be able to interact and say, we don't want that. And we'll have a discussion up here, and you'll hear about it. I think that's really important. So it's just one step at a time. I think this is a good step.
I'd like to make a comment and thank Nathan Rosasco for his comments. And I think it's something we have not looked at, and that is the size of the business. We've left it wide open. And certain types of really small businesses come to mind. The lady down the road that sells eggs, the poster guy that hangs posters. They don't make a lot of money. So are we going to just make this a blanket, are we going to a blanket all businesses, or we have the opportunity right here to kind of define, because Supervisor Brandon, the kinds of benefits that you mentioned are for, going concerns that want to maybe expand their business or be able to know how to do the next best, better thing. So I do think we ought to take the time to talk about this and make a ground zero for what kind of businesses we're not going to require.
Well, I think, Liz, you were going to jump in there. I mean, I think that we did cover that, though, didn't we? The size of business, because we're going off of the California Business and Professional Code, which covers things like people that sell eggs. It doesn't include, kids' lemonade stands, things like of that nature. Non-permanent businesses that operate for, 60 days or less. So I kind of thought we went at length about that, and that others before us, other counties kind of follow the business and professional code, which excludes a lot of those uses that you were talking about.
Well, if we had those conversations in the past, I don't remember them. I don't remember seeing them in our material for today's board meeting.
So we did at the last time we discussed this in September, we did discuss at a fair amount of length, specifically size of business. Did your board want to require any sort of like gross sales limit?
Yeah.
And the board all agreed that they wanted all businesses except for those short term that are 60 days or less. There was that discussion.
I do think we should put a threshold on sales or gross sales or something.
There was one, I think we brought up, we didn't really get clear direction on, was home occupation businesses. We're obviously dealing with Title 17. Yeah, cottage industries, commercial micro enterprises, the lady, doing crafts or stuff at home, or even a legal office that could be, just occasional meetings or something. Home occupations, I think, is starting to get to where it's going to be very complicated to enforce that. That's something specifically mentioned as to what businesses have a requirement for it. I would consider recommending removing that one. I think it pretty much, that is a category of almost exclusively small businesses, like Supervisor Half mentioned, not looking to expand, probably not looking for these grant opportunities. It's operated out of a home.
Well, I'd like to make it simple. Just assign a certain gross sales amount and not talk about types of businesses, because that gets more complicated.
So
So-
cottage industries, I think, is at 10,000 per year is the limit that they set for,
So as I said, by following in the purpose section of the ordinance, we cover a lot of these things, and it's in the state business and professional code, and I don't know if our auditor controller wants to talk about that, but we went over how complicated it would be to do that. You'd have to check receipts, and what if somebody has a bad year, and all these different things. Just kind of one thing I just say is that, you know, we have, this is probably the fifth or so discussion about it, and I thought we covered a lot of this area, and I feel pretty comfortable where we're at with what we have, and I hear the objections from folks, particularly in our ag community, but the one thing I hear so much in the community, and I've heard over the years, is that people want economic development, and this is what economic development looks like. Our neighboring counties have a business license very similar to this, and often charges a much higher fee than this. And they've had these things in place for years. And there was a question about asking if we even know all of the businesses that are going to be affected by this, and the answer is no, we don't. We don't know nearly enough to be able to support our businesses and push forward economic development. And that is the purpose of this. We just do not have the information. And until we have that information, we'll continue to fall further and further behind. And so there's a larger issue at play here of understanding what businesses are succeeding in Tuolumne County, which are failing, which can benefit from grants and other support. We don't have any information on these basic operations in our county, and that is the overarching goal here. And so I think the ordinance is in a place that can achieve that, and working through the details about how, you know, which businesses are included, what, you know, whether it's email address or physical address, those are things that I think will have to be worked out over time based on the information that we get back. But the basic underlying premise that we need some type of tool to collect this information, I feel strongly that it is a positive thing for our county, and it's something that we probably should have done a long time ago, frankly. Anyway.
I don't even know where to begin. The more regulations that we put on these, or more restrictions that we put on these, the more time my staff's going to have to spend. So if we put a $10,000 level for income, then we are going to, as Chris pointed out, need to validate that and enforce that. So we're going to start asking people to bring in tax returns. That's just going to take a lot more time. So if we want to get down to that level, just recognize that there is going to be a lot more time the staff's going to have to dedicate to this. The other thing that, you know, and Ryan alluded to it, but when COVID hit and Cole wanted to be able to identify businesses that he could help, he got a list from the assessor for anybody who filed personal property tax. He got a list from me from anybody who filed fictitious business licenses. And he put both of those lists together, and he got some lists from CDD for businesses who went out and got permits. But there is no place in the county that there is a full database of all the businesses for all the reasons that everybody's talking about. A nice list to be able to give to Cole so that he could reach out. A nice list if you want to give to the Chamber of Commerce so that they could reach out. A nice list so that the sheriff knows when he's coming into somebody's house what kind of chemicals they may have at that place, because they do photography and they develop film there. This is an ability for not just gathering all the information, but there's some positives that businesses will get out of it. And as I shared with Kathleen, I write a letter once to twice a year for businesses who will come in here and say, hey, will you please verify that Tuolumne County does not require a business license because I want to apply for this grant, or I want to prove to the bank that I can set up my bank account. And this way here, we would have a business licenses and the businesses would be able to do some of that stuff without coming to me and having me write a letter. I just, I really like Anaya's KISS. Keep it as simple as we can. The more things that we add to this, the harder it's going to be for the businesses, as they all pointed out, and the harder it's going to be for my staff. Yes, anybody can set up a Yahoo account or a Gmail account, but if they don't use it after they set it up just to meet this requirement, and a year later we send out their renewal and it bounces back, what good have we done? So let the businesses be a little bit in control of what they want to tell us and not make the regulation so hard that it makes a lot of work on my staff. Thank you.
Liz, I did have a question real quick. Somebody brought up in the audience regarding coming up, filling out a business license. Will there be an online option?
Yes, the whole idea is we're going to try and use OpenGov for them to do that.
Okay.
There'll be the ability to grab the license from the county clerk's office, fill it out and send it in, and there'll be the ability, because different people do different things. There'll be the ability to mail it in. There'll be the ability to come down to the counter and bring it in. We're hoping the majority of the people are going to do it online, fill the application in online and send it to us, and be able to actually pay online too.
Okay. And then my only last question, and then I'll make my final comments, but does the state require a business license?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay. So the reason why I ask that is because I hear, again, you guys know where I stand on this, but I hear some of the frustrations from folks in the audience. And, I'm sitting here thinking, I was in a car accident a few months ago. I'm like 3 weeks behind just calling the insurance company back and providing them my medical bills because I literally don't have the time. Now, that's not your problem. It's my problem. But I hear what they're saying because I don't have time to do some of my personal things. So when the state doesn't require it, but then the county is, that's where I feel like, some people don't understand why are we doing this, why are we adding more regulation. So I just want you guys to know I hear you, and I hear you on that. I do want to speak to a couple of things. At the beginning of all this, I did support anything that was a safety issue. So if you have an Airbnb or hotel where you are putting your life in overnight and you're sleeping, and I did think there was some legitimacy behind that for a business license, because you have to, if I'm putting people up, I need to make sure that the chemicals underneath my garage aren't going to blow up and kill somebody. So from the get-go, I do want people to know I did support specific areas that I felt were safety issues. But, I think it would be awesome if Cole had that list and if he could help businesses. But I'm of the mindset that if you're a business, it's sink or swim. If the economy's taking a dump and you haven't done your due diligence and you haven't, gone to the county website and you haven't looked for those programs that are available, that's on the business owner. The problem I have is that I feel like we're taking it on as ours, and I'm not pointing the finger. I'm just saying it's not government's responsibility to make sure that our businesses are thriving. We're supposed to make sure that we have things in play to allow them to thrive. And so for me, again, this isn't a huge, crazy big deal. I own a little business. I don't have a problem paying $32 and putting the thing up on my thing and having, fire come in and check it out. But again, I think it should be optional. And so that's all I'm saying. There's 4 of you guys up here who are moving forward with it, so I would just recommend, like Debbie suggested, that you keep it simple. The more we add to it, I think the more convoluted it is, the more it's, now he's going to have to bring in 10 different other pieces of paper, and it's going to be much more of a pain in the ass. And so I just want it to be simple, and I'll leave it at that. So thank you guys. I'll shut up now, and thank you, Liz, for all the time. And I would like to also say this has been before the board so many times. And it would be really frustrating for me right now to have it go back. It's just like, I feel like every time this comes before the board, we're going to keep adding or subtracting, and we need to, I think it's gotten to where it's at because of the conversations we've had. We put a lot of time and energy, so I would, although I'm not going to vote in favor of it, I would support moving it forward today. But I say that with Don't look at me like that.
If you,
No.
going for it would move it a lot quicker.
So I'd just like to point out, in the proposed ordinance, 5.02.050 and 5.02.060, this is an area that we spent a lot of time as a board discussing. There was give and take. We came to conclusions. Not everyone here was always pleased with one aspect or another, but we agreed as a board. And we had certain things that we excluded, including cafe musicians and other areas. And there's a lot of them that were excluded by law. Some of them were excluded from having to pay a fee. And so we spent a lot of time on this, and I too am ready to move forward with this. I don't think we need to over-examine this and re-debate it here. As such, I would like to make a motion to approve the business license program per staff recommendation.
I had a quick point of clarification with staff on it, just to make sure that you had clear direction on the language I had suggested for the purpose, and that there was majority support for that, just before we move forward, so we know exactly what we're approving.
So, would you?
If there are changes, we need to come back for another first reading. As I understand, I'm hearing that there's going to be direction to make changes to the ordinance.
Another option that your board could consider, and, at this point, I'm fine with whatever you choose, obviously. But since it really, what I'm hearing is you want to add some clarifying points really to be better communicators with the public. So the public really understands the purpose, they understand the fee portion. This is just me speculating, but I'm not sure that the majority of our business owners are going to necessarily read the ordinance.
Yeah.
My assumption is they likely will read the form and either in paper or through OpenGov. And so perhaps any clarification, increasing communication about the purpose, et cetera, and the fee could be added to the form rather than, and leaving the ordinance just as sort of bare bones, basic, broad, general.
And
And the only reason why I bring that up is, as Chris mentioned, if your board wants to make language changes to the ordinance, then we will renotice. No, we didn't notice. We will bring this back for first reading once again at the next meeting, and then a second reading after that. Or your board could opt to waive the first reading now, set the second reading for November 2nd.
Yeah, and I hear you loud and clear, and I agree completely. I think that people don't go to the ordinance typically when they have concerns with what, a particular action by the board. They go to the letter or whatever they're getting that's telling them they need to have a business license. And so it's more important that it's there.
I don't mean to interrupt. I did interrupt his motion.
So with that, we have a motion from Supervisor Goldenberg to accept staff recommendation, and I did want to second that. So, sorry, forgive me. Supervisor Brennan?
No, that was all. I just wanted to say I was clarifying what we were voting on, but I didn't want to reopen discussion, which is the only reason I interrupted. I didn't want it to spin off with that. So I don't have any discussion on the motion except to say I'm okay moving forward with it at this point. We have talked about it a lot. To me, including in the ordinance, was more for staff in the future to make sure that staff understood the purpose of this continuing was always to improve communication and information gathering, not just another process. But I think that can be done another way. I would like to see the form when the draft is kind of ready and look at that. But
and you'll be coming back to us at least once more.
The second reading.
Yeah, so the second reading will be at the next meeting if your board approves the motion. We don't have the form quite ready yet with this language change. I'm not sure that we'll have it by November 2nd, but we could definitely bring that back.
And when you do come back, could you also make it abundantly clear to the public which businesses would be exempt so that they will know. I know we've kind of said it in a couple of lines, but kind of flush it out so that's the kind of questions that I think the public will have. Do I qualify or do I not? You know, so if you can make that abundantly clear, that would be helpful as well. And it doesn't have to be in the ordinance code.
Yeah, and I do remember there was, it probably wasn't the last meeting, I can't remember but there was a chart that you presented at some point, that big, long list of business types and whether or not they would fall underneath this. So I think we do have that, it just wasn't presented today. So, okay, if there's no more discussion, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. We do have a motion by Supervisor Goldenberg to accept the staff recommendation, and a second by Supervisor Campbell. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oppose, make it optional.
Okay, so we have 4 votes aye, 1 vote opposed. Supervisor Kirk. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Okay. Shall we move on to item 16?
Very good.
Are you set up for that?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Item number 16, consideration of approving a contract amendment in the amount of $283,290 with Ionakis Architectural Services related to the remodel and design of Washington Street and Niani Courthouses, Administrative Building, A.N. Francisco Building, and Tuolumne General Hospital Site, expanding the scope of services to include additional county facilities and departments.
All right, good morning, Board. Eric Earhart, Assistant County Administrator. So as you recall, during the recommended budget, your board approved a contract for Ionakis Services to provide architectural services, knowing that the 2 courthouses would be vacated this year. So the services under that would evaluate the use of that space. It includes historians, electrical, mechanical engineers, structural engineers to go through those facilities and really provide us a plan of what optimized space would look like in there for county operations to reduce our ongoing expenses where we have leases right now today. As we begin discussions throughout the year with the use of ARP money, the idea of expanding the scope of those services to really include the rest of our partners in the county. Previously, we did a space needs study that included all of these things for our law and justice partners. This expanded scope of work before you today would really include the rest of our county departments to really utilize and maximize make the best use of our spaces that we have coming available soon, and getting rid of those ongoing expenses we have through leases and rents. So this amendment, again, this was something we discussed and your board approved the funding for this program and the use of American Rescue Plans during the adopted budget. So this would expand the scope of those services to include the entirety of this building, the entirety of the ANF Francisco building, as well as all the departments in those and some additional services over at the TGH campus. With that, we will have documents that we will be ready to produce to send out for RFPs to get bids on construction and remodeling of those facilities. We will also have a cost estimate for each one of those departments to see what it'll take so we can, if we needed to, we could piece those together and make those moves incremental as funds become available. But really this provides that roadmap for us to get out of those lease facilities, make the best use of the spaces we have today in the way that we provide services to our community today as opposed to when these facilities were first built. So before you today is a contract amendment with Ionakis to amend or add the additional scope of work in the amount of $283,000 and $290. And again, this was included in the adopted budget. So the recommendation from staff is to approve the attached contract amendment with Ionakis for the expanded scope of services. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Questions?
No question. I appreciate the information, Erica. This is something that as a board we've discussed quite a bit as well, obviously during all our budget processes, that we have a desire to make our county more fiscally healthy, and looking at the long term, how do we get there? And this area, the sooner that we can get these studies done and completed and get out of some of these very expensive lease agreements, the sooner we can make ourselves, fiscally healthy in other ways and allow us to do other things that we're restricted from doing now. So there's a cost of doing this, obviously. We approved this, previously as part of the adopted budget, and I'm solidly in favor of this and like to move forward and let's get this process going. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Yeah.
Can you just clarify where the money's coming from? And you said we already budgeted for it?
Correct. So during our discussions, as we developed the adopted budget, and also previously in the year, we had discussions about the use of the American Rescue Plan funds. And really, those are one-time dollars, and so that's where this is coming from. We're going to leverage those one-time dollars that we have coming from the federal government to reduce our ongoing future expenses through this program.
Okay. And then, this is just a legal question that came to mind. Do we not have to do RFPs with other companies? I mean, we can automatically add Lion-Oscus to the space studies needs?
So we do have the ability to amend the contract that's in place, and I'll let county councils jump in here if we want, but they've already started the work, and they would just be expanding their current scope of work to include those additional facilities.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Now, when we were having the ARP funds, I did vote against using money for studies, but the full board moved forward with it. It's here today before us. I think when looking at this, one thing I do like about, however the funding is being used, that's already a done deal. But what I like about looking at the whole organization is that perhaps there's things that we may have missed if we just looked at what we were looking at prior. And so maybe it'll just give us more options with cutting leases and rents in other places, because now we have a bigger, broader picture of all of our organizations. So in that aspect, I do like that. Whether or not this study is going to mean that we actually make those changes sooner or later, I think it's kind of like a shovel-ready thing where once we have this project, we can use it now or in 10 years. And is that a fair assessment?
That's correct. This will give us also a cost estimate, like I stated, for each one of those projects. So then we can start looking at how do we fund these projects and what can we truly afford as a county.
Right. And if we can't afford something now, we have the space studies needs to know what we want.
Correct.
Moving in the future. Okay. So thanks.
I'd like to make two comments. I like this for two reasons. Number one, as already stated, it will eventually bring us out of some of our rental properties. And so it'll be a cost savings, but also it's going to create a business plan for our county. It's going to help us create a business plan and be able to better plan our space in order to conduct county business. And for those two reasons, I'm in support.
I have a question for Eric. From our meeting and kind of talking about this at length, can you just explain a little more on, so what are we paying? I assume so if we did not have this and we had open space somewhere in the county, what do we do if we had not conducted an architectural remodel and design study?
So typically, as space would open up, we would, just make our best case, your guess of how to utilize that space. And it's not typical that we have space open up in our facilities. I think really the big driving factor of this is the fact that the courts are moving to their newly constructed state-owned courthouse and vacating the county-owned facilities here. So that's really a driving factor for that. Part of this program and the process, I think, is what you're asking about, is what we're getting out of this, is they really do take the time to do these in-depth interviews and work collaboratively with each department being impacted to understand the operations and the services that are being provided. And then they look at the spaces that we have available. They look at the structure to determine what walls and buildings can be removed and what's the most efficient and effective way to do that, and to provide a workflow process, a physical workflow that is most efficient for the public and staff as well, to really provide a better service, but also maximizing the use of our space today that we have. We have a lot of since these buildings were constructed in the late 70s, early 80s, there's been some changes made to the buildings, and it hasn't always been really well thought out. And so we have a lot of wasted space. And so this will provide us opportunity to maximize that space as well. And there's a lot of thought that goes into a lot of partners that come into this. Again, multiple engineers, structural, mechanical, electrical, HVAC, cost estimators as well. So we'll have a really good cost estimate for each one of those facilities also. So a lot of thought.
And so this is just setting up the plan, but it's not actually doing the repairs, for example, taking out a wall and rearranging something. I do recognize with the courthouse, that's very unique, the situation we're in right now with a lot of space. file digitization. There's a lot of space opening up because of that, which is a good thing. Obviously, IT 20 years ago is not going to be as big of a need as it is now. And we probably had a lot more folks having to deal with paper documents that might not have to be doing that anymore. I just wonder, what would be the process when this isn't available? If we were able to identify one of these spaces, correct me if I'm wrong, we're already doing it for the 4th floor here, we're doing it for the courthouse, and we're doing it for the hospital, right?
Correct. Both courthouses, the 4th floor and the hospital are included right now. So without this process, we would issue an RFP to have somebody come in, with the historic courthouse specifically. We would start with the historian and we would do community engagement to determine what the community would like to see. We would have the historian come in and tell us really what we can and can't do, and that's part of this process also. So some of these steps we would be taking also, but these are the folks that this is their job. They're the experts in the field. We would be taking our best guess at it. We would be issuing RFPs for contractors, architects to come in and look at each individual space and piecemeal it together, which we've done for years, which is why we have these facilities that really are just kind of chopped up and broken up.
Okay. As we all talked about before, I do very much see the value with the unique situation of the courthouse. It's historic, it has unique needs, and the hospital as well. And with the 4th floor, potentially any interactions in those buildings. I just have concerns applying this to the rest of them. And one concern I have too is putting this from ARP funds. To me, even though it does fall under what can be used for ARP funds, and I do understand that, it's just concerning to me of what the message that sends, because it is recovery funding. I feel that, I would like to entertain the idea for the board of using this from contingencies. I think with ARP funds, we should keep all allocations of that pretty specific to things that we can say this is from COVID recovery. I do understand why this and some of the other decisions we made are financially good choices. This one I'm a little less sure on, but where it's paid for, I think does matter.
Yeah, I'll speak to that last point a little bit. I spent a lot of time back east at the NACO conference, and this particular item was probably what I spent the most time talking about. I talked to 2 separate consulting firms, and I laid out this whole idea that we were looking at doing a space needs study to rehabilitate some of these buildings. And what they told me is that this is a great idea, and it's very much in line with the use of ARP funds, because it's repairing and improving quality of life in the county, which and performing functions that we possibly would otherwise have been able to do if COVID-19 hadn't come around. And so it checks all of the boxes in terms of use of ARP funds, and I think it's a really good project. I mean, everybody knows I've been kind of harping on this since I joined the board, because we have thousands of square feet of vacant county-owned office space that we don't use, and we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year renting office space. And to me, that's not right. It doesn't make sense. If we have this vacant office space, we should find a way to use it. And it's unfortunate, I guess, that it has the word study in it, because I understand people's have kind of they don't like to hear that term, because, there have been state studies about, whether frogs are happier in 70-degree water or 60-degree water, and whether or not, cats make a better pet than dogs, which they don't, by the way. But this isn't that. This is a roadmap to yeah, I don't know. I think we're definitely more on the dog side of the county. This is a roadmap to making our county more efficient, using the space that we have, and getting out of these rented facilities. Yeah, I'm very much in support of it. I think I'm very eager to find out what the findings are going to be, and ways that I'm quite confident, just with my own very low or non-existent level of expertise, there are some changes that we can make fairly quickly once we have this space needs study that are going to save us a lot of money. So I'm looking forward to finding out what that is.
And I could make a case for this study, this space needs study, being a study about infrastructure, which is covered under the ARP funds.
So we're talking about rented facilities. So HHS, and I definitely agree, it's been a really terrible mistake that's developed over decades ago. I mean, having a lot of this money going to rent instead of actually owning a place and seeing cost savings there. HHS, to my understanding, in their current facility, it's very expensive. They will be moving into the hospital, right? As well as keeping kind of a nexus hub for health and human services, behavioral health, veteran services, public health, everybody in there. That's already covered under the study, the previous study that we authorized. We had facilities at 10 Calaveras Street, right? We purchased that building when the option came up. We're doing internal loan to be able to cover that. That's a cost savings. We've talked about our justice partners in the facility. We didn't want to yet move forward with the $70 to $100 million cost of an admin center there. I don't imagine necessarily there's any option of bringing the sheriff's department to the second floor here. I mean, there's specific needs, or the DA, I don't know. So I'm wondering what rental costs are we talking about from other offices that we might be moving them, say, to this building or to the other courthouse and expanding on.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, we pay rent for where the IT department is, and when you include the rent and some other additional fees in there, I believe it's roughly around $142,000 a year, if I recall correctly off the top of my head. In addition to that, we also pay rent for where the public defender is currently located, which is another, I think, $46,000 a year. And again, I'm just trying to, it's right in that ballpark. The other option we have is, we have other, the district attorney's office, if she's inclined to move into one of these facilities that opens up, then that space may be available to sell that property, to reinvest that into some other county capital to really kind of centralize our organization.
I guess sorry.
The other clarification here, again, is that we've already had the discussion, we had a board vote on approving the funds out of the American Recovery Plan. And so now we're looking to approve the contract to get the work done.
Correct.
Thank you. I have a point of order. This agenda item is consideration of approving a contract amendment to Lionakis. And we're wandering all over the place, nitpicking many other subjects.
Thank you. Yeah, and okay, on that point, I gotta look, is there any public comment?
Cross off my nitpicking comment. And I'll just point out, with all the wandering, that I didn't think any ARP funds were allocated by you for businesses and economic development. It was stuff that you wanted or your department heads wanted. Anyway, I've been here a long time. I've been coming to these meetings since 2009, longer than most of you. So there was a comment about, I think, Supervisor Kirk about Lionakis and an RFP. So Lionakis has done a lot in this community, and they're very familiar with what's here. And the thing that I've always liked about them is they make an effort to involve the public in their discussions. And not everybody does that. So I'm okay with an RFP not going out and using Lionakis.
Thank you. Is there any other comment on this?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract amendment with Lionakis, amount of $283,000 and $290 per staff recommendation.
Okay, have a motion. Have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion by Supervisor Goldenberg, second by Supervisor Half. Go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
No.
So I have 4 yes, 1 no. Supervisor Brandon. Motion carries. Thank you very much. So that was our last regular item. So what I'm going to suggest is that we go ahead and do reports. And then we have 2 closed session items, and so we'll do those after. Does that work for everyone? We'll figure that out. Okay. So if there's no objections, Assistant CAO Earhart.
Nothing to report.
Okay. County Council? All right. I skipped you last time. Board Clerk, anything to report?
Yes, it was brought to my attention that I may not have been 100% clear with my report out last week, so I just wanted to clarify for the public. The introduction of Zoom for public comment would make a change to our public participation procedures, and it would also support our staffing. So we would be transitioning that 209-533-6581 number to a Zoom support line temporarily. And then we would be transitioning public comment to Zoom as it provides all of the resources that we currently provide with that one phone line using our current system, and there would be no additional charge. There would be no additional work on staff.
And we're still looking at the November 9th implementation?
That is correct, Supervisor Goldenberg. We are planning to roll out with this on November 9th, and we would have that 209-533-6581 available if people were having an issue with it during the transition. And then once we were comfortable with that, we would still list our main Board of Supervisors phone line for future assistance if it was needed.
Very good. Thanks again for your efforts on this, too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Supervisor.
All right. Who'd like to start? Supervisor Heff?
Yeah, I wanted to give an update on the broadband issue, the broadband, what's going on with RCRC and us joining the JPA. I had asked the question, then what, to Barbara Hayes. Will we need to go out and get our own consultant to create our strategic plan, or what's going to happen? And she said that well, first of all, they're compiling all of the different counties that are wanting to join this JPA, and then they will make the pitch to the U.S. Economic Development Agency for getting this money. It's not a done deal yet, but it looks fairly likely. And so when that happens, then RCRC will find and hire consultants to work with each of the counties. So we won't have to, I was thinking to, jump the line and get started on this now if we were going to be fending for our own, but they're going to be helping the county to develop the strategic plan. So that's good because we won't be using resources like our staff. We will be using them to work with the consultants, but we won't have to find somebody within staff or to fly an RFP or so forth. So that's good news. As you know from me getting up to the podium during public comments, I've been working quite a bit on the U.S. Capitol Christmas tree coming to our county on November 3rd, tying up all the loose ends. And so you'll be seeing more and more advertisements and outreach to the public for this. And I would encourage you all to take what our clerk, Heather, has created on social media and broadcast it out on your own social network platforms. Also, this past week, I was involved with Supervisor Brandon and Calaveras County in having our first meeting together about possibly bringing a USDA meat processing plant to this county or to, for the benefit of both counties, Tuolumne County and Calaveras County. We had quite a few people on the call, including the farm advisor, other UC Extension personnel, Bob Burris from RCRC. I'm sure Supervisor Brandon can talk at length about this too. It was a good first meeting. We're going to be developing our plan and how we're going to move forward so that hopefully in 2022 we can figure out whether this is feasible or not and what model we'd want to put up. So more on that later, but it's exciting. Also exciting is at RCRC, we saw a presentation on a 3D printer capability. It prints not with plastic, but with concrete, and makes homes that are affordable 40% less in cost. And we are bringing those people from that. There's two firms actually, a construction firm and the 3D printing firm. They're coming to our county to meet with a few select people about the possibility of bringing this technology to our county. And so that'll be happening later on in this month as well. And finally, I went to a YARTS meeting in person yesterday, over in Mariposa County. I don't have a lot to report out on that, but I wanted to let the board know that the next YARTS meeting will be in February on the 7th, and it will be here in Tuolumne County. So if you're interested, you might want to tune into that, or any public member interested in what we do. That's it.
Okay, Supervisor Kirk.
Regular committees, commissions, one thing I found very interesting was a healthy survey studies done by the school. So I've asked the person who I believe is Edgar, I don't want to forget the name, anyways, that he present it to the board in the next couple months. It's a really good study. I hear it every year, but I think it gives us a good pulse of where our kids are at in the community. Also, a Blue Zones meeting. And then what was I going to say? Oh, yes, the insurance commissioner, Ricardo Laura, sent an email out to quite a few folks regarding some things that he's working on, headway within the insurance world. I found it as a good opportunity. I've been discussing with Assessor Recorder Kanan Whitman some possible solutions, so I forwarded him back an email regarding some potential solutions, and I'm going to be doing a follow-up with his office hopefully here in the next few weeks. I'd like to have a sit-down face-to-face meeting with him on how we can't get some more headway for the fair/unfair plan, which so many of our constituents are paying. We think we have some ideas to get headway, and we just need some legislators to actually write a bill and make it happen. So I'll report out more as that process plays through.
Okay, Supervisor Goldenberg.
Yeah, thank you. So normal meetings, Fire Safe Advisory Committee's been very active, including subcommittee meetings. As a number of the board members are aware, we've had some concerns about the use of sirens program being implemented by Tuolumne Safe. We're working our way through that, and as OES Dory Beats said this morning, we'll bring this back before the board. But there was a couple areas of concerns. One of them in particular that I received several comments on was a testing of the siren in the Cold Springs area, and unfortunately the timing was not good. It was in the middle of a wind event, and there was no pre-notification. So there's also been some coordination problems in other areas, so we're going to work these things out. Commission on Aging, always a good meeting. We had intended to have an in-person meeting at Groveland, but due to COVID restrictions, elected not to, so we held it virtually, but Supervisor Haft, there was a really good turnout from the Groveland folks here. There was, 7, 8 people maybe, so that was really good. There was good participation. Had a meeting with the Apple Valley Homeowners Association, discussed some fire safety as well as road issues. Did have a meeting with Blue Zone folks specific to tobacco use in Tuolumne County, and so we had good discussions there. Also met with Daryl Slocum at Sonora Area Foundation. We had a pretty in-depth discussion about the community grant program and where we were going with that, where perhaps the foundation will go or not go. And And there's still a chance, if we can work out some, make sure that we're okay legally and we meet the terms of any potential audit stuff, that the foundation would be willing to manage, but they would like clear direction from our board, if so. So we had good discussions about it, though. Had an on-site meeting at Resiliency Village, and that was good. Met with the board of executive board there, Mark Dyken, Brenda Chapman, and Shelley Muniz. Really good discussion. And I also met with, I think, 6 of the villagers up there, and very good program. And the report I'm getting from the executive board, too, is that they've developed rather good relations with a number of the local people there, and they have good support locally. So that was refreshing to see then, and they're very appreciative of the assistance that they're getting. And finally, I attended TUD wastewater treatment facility groundbreaking yesterday morning. $35 million project funded by USDA. They do have some interim financing by private party, and that, so really at the conclusion of the project, they'll get the USDA funds. But it was well attended. Sonora City Council staff, city manager, Mary Rose Rutaconga, council members Segerstrom, Such, and Garvanta were there. So anyways, good to see that, because that's going to be a benefit to the whole county. They're going to be able to use water at the conclusion of this in ways that they could not before. They'll be able to actually use it for landscaping and other purposes, and they haven't had that option before due to the age of the facility being almost 50 years old. So that'll bring about some positive changes, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Brandon.
Great, thank you, board. Echoing what Supervisor Kirk mentioned with Insurance Commissioner Lara's office, so I had a call last week as well with a journalist student who's doing a fire insurance story we've been seeing posting around in the community. It's absolutely crippling. So it was a great opportunity to be able to give her some background on a lot of the fire-related challenges that we face, how it is exacerbating a lot of the other issues. Our housing crisis, our economic issues, the Board of Forestry. Unfortunately, we're having a lot of things bearing down on us. And I just want to encourage that anytime there is an opportunity for us to speak out more on that, what we do have is our voice. And so I very much appreciate that taking an initiative to schedule that meeting, because I think we need that. We don't always have the money or votes, but we do have the stories from up here. I'm very excited with behavioral health for the opportunity to potentially reimagine and have new direction there. It's been an area we've had some issues in. I think this board has taken what we got with it and working with Rebecca's really great leadership under it, doing what we can to be able to address the kind of multifaceted problem there. Without getting into too many details, I'm pretty confident that the progress is being made to have a good working environment, to have competitive positions there, to be able to have good leadership, good management, everything that people would expect in an office. So that's very important to me. I had a great meeting last week, or Public Works had a great meeting, my best, with some local folks in Jamestown about working on the sidewalks. I'm very excited about the progress being made. And we found that there was a miscommunication that unfortunately held the whole thing up, and now it's moving forward. And as you know, those sidewalks, there's a lot of issues there. People have been injured. It's an unsightly issue. We've talked about kind of our Main Street areas as economic drivers. And certainly I think that detracts from Jamestown. So those trees, the sidewalks, it's been something that been waiting for the right opportunity to be able to get that addressed. And this is one really big step. I had a great dinner with a long history local developer about the potential of if any properties would be available for affordable housing without getting into any specific projects, just to understand the opportunity, which I think was a really good meeting. Again, no project specific or anything like that, but to better understand where some of our landholders who might be able to aid in this crisis, what their needs are. I had a great meeting with Habitat for Humanity, went out to tour some of their new properties that they have built there. It's amazing with the supply chain shortages, what they've managed to do. This is a community-funded effort. They get a ton of donations, as I think they said. They're not great on paper, but they always make it work, and it's through faith and community support, and it's a really beautiful thing. So they're doing very well out there. We're trying to make sure that the county is as good of a partner as we can be to support their effort. Again, we had that meeting regarding a meat processing plan. I think it has a lot of benefits. It makes our ranching more competitive. It creates jobs here. It might be an inmate training program. Who knows? I give a shout out to Justin too, who was on the call from the sheriff's office. You know, and I think it's also a more sustainable version of it. It reduces a lot of the transportation greenhouse gas emissions as well. And so I think there's something in it for everybody. Plus, who doesn't want, you know, locally raised food? The 3D printing conversation, thank you to Supervisor Haff for organizing that. We all, I think, spoke with them at the RCRC conference. I really appreciated the opportunity to follow up on that conversation, connect them with some local business I can be interested in. I had one last really important update. This is related to Project Home Key. In the past, this board has chosen, not this board, but this, you know, the royal this board, right, has chosen to not pursue those grant funds. It had different requirements under it. We've just recently received a staff report from Rebecca on what the new rounds of Home Key look like. And I think it's something we need to very carefully consider. You would have to manage it for 15 years. You have to have it for the purpose for 55. I've been speaking with legal counsel and Eric, I believe, about potentially there'd have to be an RFP process for who may run it, who may own it. Still in discussions about it. I just want to bring it up to the rest of the board that this is an opportunity potentially to take under what was presented to me pretty much any type of facility that can meet a housing standard, utilize our outdoor shelter ordinance, get a large amount of state funding to be able to provide that affordable housing, whether it's regular workforce housing for folks that don't make a lot of money, or it's a sober living facility or a recovery facility. The ones we keep talking about that hamstring our law enforcement, hamstring our efforts because we don't have these places. I believe we can do it with this. But the deadline's in January. That's for submitting it. I believe we can move fast on it, but I don't think we have a lot of time to waste. So just to keep that on your radars, maybe ask staff about kind of what we're learning with it. It's certainly something we're going to be looking at on the Commission on Homelessness, and I hope other areas too.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I don't have too much to report. Excuse me. Yeah, so last week I attended the Central Sierra Economic Development District, and we discussed the organic woody feedstock plan that was presented today, so there wouldn't be any surprises there. Attended the Solid Waste Committee meeting on Wednesday with Supervisor Goldenberg, and some of the things that were discussed there. 383, so 1383, which is about the organic waste reduction. That's something that rural counties are kind of struggling to find a way how we're going to deal with that. Basically, it would have a requirement that there's a third bin, so you have your recycling, you have your trash, and then you'd have your organic waste bin. That's not really a huge issue in rural counties like ours. A lot of people do their own composting, or it's mixed in with animal feed. It's not a huge issue here, but the cost of administering that and asking people to do it would be fairly significant. And so we're requesting an exemption through the Solid Waste Committee, and I believe it'll come to this board at some point in the near future, requesting exemption for counties less than 70,000, which of course we fall into that category. On the transportation front, we approved $107,000 approximately for our through our enhanced zero emission vehicle program to purchase our first electric bus. We also passed our budget for that organization. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that tomorrow we're going to be having our tomorrow we're going to be having our strategic workshop for transportation. It's going to be at 1 o'clock, and it'll be on Zoom and also at the TCTC offices. So that's going to be an opportunity for people to look at what is transportation going to mean in our future in terms of street widening projects, more sidewalks, more biking, more traffic. What does VMT, vehicle miles traveled, mean? Covering a lot of those issues. So this is kind of we're going to be using this meeting as a foundation for some of the discussions we'll be having within transportation over the next year. So come to that if you can. It's tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. Yep,
So,
Supervisor Kirk.
I just want, David, you had mentioned something about the siren test for the alarms. Could you state that again or clarify it?
So the siren in the Cold Springs area that is not, it's not up and running yet, but it was installed and they ran a test literally in the middle of the red flag event we had with the winds blowing, and they did a test that was unannounced to the members of the community, and it disturbed a lot of members of the community.
I think you're referring to an email that came to the board. It was one individual. And I mean, I would appreciate if you talked to me beforehand, before you report out, because there actually wasn't a test. It was a 2-minute power blurb. I actually have the video, and it was cleared with the sheriff. So just so you know, there was not a siren test. A siren test would last a minute or longer. This was a 2-second power to make sure it's actually powered to the siren, which was a boop.
Well,
so I have the video. The individual who emailed the board doesn't like me because of my stance on COVID. So I can share with you the video.
I'll let you two discuss that.
Exactly. Which
on
we
your
should
own.
discuss before we come to the public.
And with that, we're going to go into closed session. We have 2 closed session items, item 17 and item 18. So would you please read those for me, Ms. Ryan?
Item number 17, closed session conference with real property negotiators, Eric Earhart, Assistant County Administrator, Simi Bangu, Purchasing and Contract Management Analyst, Authority Government Code Section 54956.8, Jamestown Mine Property, APN 058-200-027-000, and APN 058-200-030-000, price and terms. Item number 18, closed session conference with labor negotiators, Tracy Riggs, County Administrator, Eric Earhart, Assistant County Administrator, Ann Fremd, Human Resources Risk Manager, and Kimberly Phipps, Senior HR Analyst, Relief, Authority Government Code Section 54957.6, all bargaining units.
Okay. Is there any public comment on either of those items? All right. Do we expect to report out? Oh, okay. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and go into closed session. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll adjourn after closed session.